Ciao, everyone. Welcome back to the Good Marshals Universal Podcast. I'm Dan Bernardo. This is Keith Mosier, Bo Davis. And today, I want to talk about, or ask the question rather, why does your martial arts suck?
I sat down today, I was like, oh my god, if mine comes up.
Go ahead, Bo.
It's like people mainly just focus on the swords and like how to use one particular sword instead of like, hey, this is how you use swords and then apply it over to every other sword. So instead of like creating like good swordsmanship, a lot of times HEMA people, I feel like, get focused on like the individual weapon and its utility on its own instead of just like theory and fundamentals and like how to use a sword. And then there's this entire unarmed section with, well, there's dagger too, but you know, you have so much grappling material that I feel like isn't looked into enough today as it was back then. Like back then it was huge, obviously. They had all the time in the world to go around and wrestle, right? But like we definitely have all the time in the world to go around and wrestle, and I see like no clubs doing ringing anymore. And ringing was big like maybe like 6 years ago at Surfo, you know. So it's like after COVID, it's like no one wants to wrestle anymore. I don't know. It's hard to find people that actually want to do ringing, and that's frustrating. It's really frustrating because that's part of what contributes to our legitimacy. Is like we do have an unarmed system of combat, at least somewhere in there, but no one wants to focus on it. They just want to fence, which I don't blame them.
Why does that lend to your legitimacy?
Because I mean, so like you can base your martial art off of just like swords. That's fine. But what happens when we get past here, right? You have to grapple. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that are just like. You see them in tournaments, especially. They go to tournaments. The rule set allows grappling. One grappler gets in there, demolishes everybody in the pool, leaves. It happens. Okay, I'm the guy. I am the guy that is grappling. So like maybe that's just me, but there's just a lot of people that are like, it's all right. Martial arts sucks because not enough people know how to grapple. That's why. So it's like too easy of a win if I grapple. Because once you get into inside measure, no one wants to play that game with you for some reason in HEMA. No one. Absolutely no one. They're too much caught up on the sword work where they're trying to sword work their way out of a situation they can't. And they just don't focus on it on its own, which I feel like is important because like if you have a martial art, you want it to be practical and applicable for everyday use in self-defense. And it's like if you know how to use a sword, you know how to use a pull cue. If you know how to wrestle, you know how to wrestle. If you know how to wrestle with a pull cue, then you know how to wrestle with a pull cue.
So Fiore, for example.
Yeah.
There are a lot of close plays within the sword work that include grappling, but with the sword.
You have to read through the grappling section to get that far.
Well,
you can't skip.
But my point is like, I could fence with the sword, get inside measure, and still use the sword work.
It's true.
To grapple.
There is some
with
sword
the
work.
sword.
Yeah, there is some sword work in inside measure, but
Yeah.
if you do the grappling section and the dagger section, you'll understand that the strata plays are all just that.
Sure.
They're all just that.
Sure.
They're just adding the weapon, which I think is important if you're going to learn how to grapple. Learn how to grapple first, add weapons second. It's a lot safer that way too.
That's true. That's true. You know, because grappling with the sword requires use of the cross guard, the pommel, things that can, if done quickly, can really hurt a person.
And you add the dagger section. There's hilt and pommel right there, just sticking out. If they have one hand off, you know.
Yeah.
So everything kind of goes back to the sword work, but there are places that are neglected in modern HEMA. It's like if this is the goal, and these are all the things we need to reach the goal, we are not reaching all the things quite towards the goal, in my opinion.
Yeah. So you have people who specialize, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So it's similar in Tang Soo Do, and it might be similar in Wing Chun, where, well, I know it's similar in Wing Chun, where, you have people that love forms, and that's all they do. And they think that if you don't do the form, you're not doing the art. But they also don't do any of the other conditioning drills, partner drills.
Yeah.
Like, they don't do these other aspects of the art which make it a congruent system.
Yeah.
So similarly, like, if you do Tang Soo Do but you don't know how to break fall, and you've never,
That's what I was gonna say.
you've never been
Yeah.
thrown before, then do you really know Tang Soo Do? Do you really know the art? Because
Yeah.
a lot of it requires you to be thrown, and
Becomes a safety issue,
Yeah.
especially in HEMA.
well, not just a safety issue. It becomes the fact that
You haven't been doing it. If you're not falling, your partner's not throwing you, which means you guys are not doing the throw.
you're not doing the art,
Yeah.
really, right? You may be doing 30% of it, right? It's like, saying I am a bowler, but you only bowl 2 frames or 3 frames, and then you're like, that's it, I'm done. You haven't even finished the game.
Sounds like people in HEMA. Yeah.
Or you only bowl, with the gutter frames up, with the guards up. I'm a bowler, but well, not really, because you're not using the gutters. You're not that doesn't come into play, right?
Using a dodgeball.
Or you're using the wrong ball, right? Like, I think that a lot of times that's absolutely true. There is a holistic aspect of your art, and if you're only focusing on one part of it, you're missing the actual
Yeah.
art. Yeah.
Falling's one of those big ones too. It's like if your martial art isn't teaching falling, then come on.
Wow. Yeah.
I feel like that's a life lesson. It's a life skill.
Yeah.
Learning how to know how to fall. The other day,
Yeah.
I was playing kickball, right? I was kind of playing kickball. Me and my girlfriend kicking the ball back and forth. It's
Okay.
a little crappy beach ball.
Yeah.
And it's like coming in at like this angle. So I hike my leg up in the air and try to round kick it. And I bust my ass. I completely slip on the grass. And you know what? I felt perfect. I didn't hit my head. None of that. And I didn't know I was going to fall. I didn't know I was on the ground until I got off it,
Sure,
It was
sure.
I felt the form of that fall instinctually right
Yeah.
there when I did it. Because nothing but my side and arm hurt and my head survived. Versus most people would have been like,
A lot of people would.
Yeah.
And that becomes more important the older you get. I teach Tai Chi Chuan to at a retirement community, and I have I have a lady. She's in her 90s, and she does the form. She has her walker next to her in case she needs it. But taking people who literally one of their biggest fears is falling. Like you fall at that age, right? Like you fall and you break your hip. That might spark an infection, which might spark something else, which might spark, I've seen
You could die.
you could die.
yeah.
Not because you broke your hip, but because what the broken hip has created. It's really fascinating. So I am 100%, on board with this idea that, if you want to live a long life, know how to fall and know how to get back up. Absolutely.
Knowing how to get back up, man. That's the second part right there. Knowing how to get back up.
That's the hard part. I was teaching that last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, with nothing but older students, older and unfit.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first concern is, can you fall? Okay, well, I got y'all to fall, but now you have to be able to get up.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that are taught in the martial arts for getting up, like tactical get up, I'd say. If you're 280 pounds and you're overweight and you're over 50 years old, that's not happening. It's never happening.
You gotta
You have to
find
find another way And it becomes individual by individual. I've got one individual who's got really bad knees and really bad shoulder. The way that I gave to these folks, that doesn't work. We have to find another way. And then, because I'm thinking defense, there's the wrinkle of, and you can't use all fours.
Right.
You can't have your knees and your hands on the ground at the same time.
Right.
But here's a person who's got bad knees and a bad shoulder. Oh my God, how do you accomplish this task? I mean, and we found ways.
Yeah.
But you have to get outside of the box. You can't just go, sorry, you gotta learn a tactical get up or you're dead.
No. What do you think? What do you think is what makes Wing Chun suck?
Spoiler alert, see, we have all these themes and topics in advance, but we don't discuss them. So I've been musing on this one for a long time because there's a serious problem. Not a problem with the question, it's a valid question, but it's a difficult thing to answer. Because if we look at the answer that Bo just gave, or what you're talking about, that is a problem with the martial art community or with the people. It's not a problem with the art. So the question is, what about Wing Chun sucks?
Yeah.
And I'm really, really, really hard pressed to separate from the art the problems that exist because of the outside community or a poor teacher here or a bad curriculum there. Getting right down to the core of your question, and it may be a bit pedantic, but I had to look at it that way. And the only thing I could come up with, and this still kind of edges on the community versus the art itself, is that the forms that describe the rudimentary principles do not describe or have in them clearly the entire scope of the art. So that if you are, and they're out there, oh God bless them, they're out there on the internet. Well, it's not like that in the form.
Bless their hearts.
Yes, well, I get it, it's not like that in the form, but we're talking about application. But if you're stuck in form, even if you're doing partner drills based on what the forms show you, you can run into people who think, literally on a cursory level, oh, there's no kicking in Wing Chun. Wait a minute, dude, we kick Kung Fu Wing Chun, okay?
Yeah.
We do some kicks in Chun Kill. Oh, but you don't see them because there's not very many of them. Or
they're implied.
they're implied. Or there are no knees. This kick doesn't have to be a kick. It could be a knee. There's no groundwork. What about Buddha's prayer and the Build Z form? That's basically either a fireman's carry pickup, or it could be a laying down on the ground and throwing a person on the ground. But it's not defined so completely in the form that there isn't the question. The questions or the lack of understanding exist because of the vagary. Right? I'm not saying that the forms are wholly vague, but there are vague aspects.
Sure.
And that's frankly the only thing I could think of trying to isolate down to the art itself. And even that's not accurate because the forms are a manifestation of a couple of guys 100, 250 years ago, based on some other forms from other Kung Fus. So I have a hard time saying what about Wing Chun sucks, because I think, at least at my level of experience, there's nothing about Wing Chun that sucks. Wing Chun people, Wing Chun fringe people, there's a lot there that sucks. But the art itself is so fundamental Tai Chi body mechanic.
Well,
that it's kind of hard to go, well, it's just hard.
so like with the community though, I feel like to have a martial art, you need community.
But
the community makes the martial art.
No, I would disagree. The
Okay.
art may make the community, but the community does not make the art.
I would agree with that too.
The community will bastardize the art.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But the art itself is a thing that has been developed and designed over time, over many, many people.
By the
And-
community?
That's where I was going with it. Yeah, it's like the
But-
community has those two guys were a community of two guys doing Wing Chun
You-
250 years ago.
You could, yes, they were, and it depends on how you define community. Community typically means like the group that's around right now and what we're talking about. If you extend the definition of community over time, over generations, then sure, yeah, that community has defined the art, but the errors decrease over a generational line versus over the local group,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
local timeline.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
with
it's-
Healer, there's no we've lost
Well,
so
over-
much source material.
right, yeah.
That the community is like always like compensating for like what we're lacking in source material.
Well, and I think that's a true aspect of all martial arts. For instance, right? So like, why does Tang Soo Do suck? Hello there. Join us next week for the continuation of this episode. Make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.